look how much I can do just from my phone.
Right.
Like I used to be glued to my desk and like it literally was 12 hours a day. And now I can cut up like a whole little movie together, generate my little images, blow them up in Magnific and put them through Luma to Splice and getting it to Twitter.
I just have a simple question to start with. How do you do what you do and do it so well? I've been an admirer for some time watching your art, and I want to give some visuals to our viewers right off the bat. So one of the ones that really struck me in the last month was this one that you call it Stay. It's this beautiful red aesthetic, sort of an Asian crime drama trailer type thing. And I don't know how many friends I've sent this to show them, the power of modern tools and modern artists, what they can do with those tools. So I wanted to get that on screen and show our viewers right away kind of what we're, who we're talking to here and the level of detail and artistry. Tell me about that project.
I mean, yeah, it's always hard for me to be like, this was the exact idea, and just like that. But usually I just go into Midjourney. It's like I used to scroll TikTok and Instagram, and now I'm just like generating stuff on Midjourney. Like that has become my just time to waste in a way. And I really love the visuals of like the kind of Wong Kar-wai style, and I love doing stories around that kind of aesthetic. And now with like Luma being in the frame of tools, it has become even cooler to work on such projects because it really has that aesthetic that just sucks you in and makes you feel all those images that you just like generate in Midjourney. And yeah, at the moment I only have time to work on that stuff from my phone, which is even crazier that I'm able to tell those stories just like from my phone.
Wow.
Like it isn't even edited on computer or anything. Like there's no time for that at the moment, but yeah, it's pretty cool to work on those projects.
It's awesome, and you're an inspiration. So another one that I've seen recently is Paris. So this one, it looks like maybe late 70s or early 80s aesthetic. I took a look at this and I was like, how, like, okay. So again, you're doing this on your phone? That's shocking to me.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. Like the projects before, like 3 months ago, that was mostly still edited on, like After Effects or Premiere. But yeah, at the moment there's just like my phone and I. And it's pretty shocking to me too that it's doable. Like it's very doable. And yeah, I love the nostalgic feeling the à Paris is kind of giving. I feel like most AI stuff is very futuristic, very sci-fi, very like fantasy style. While I love to dabble in the past, like seeing what has never been, never will be, but it's just like possible to do. And that's kind of the aesthetic I love to just get in there.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think I saw enough cyberpunk stuff to last 3 lifetimes, in the beginning. But when you see these other styles and it brings out those feelings that we've had in classic cinema, that's where you really start to feel something special as a storyteller. So yeah, I still can't get past the fact that you're doing it on your phone, but because I need to know this workflow. But someone said to me recently, a friend said to me, with the advent of these modern machine learning tools, it's going to turn everyone into either a consumer or creator. And you mentioning that you're sort of getting that dopamine hit off of, creating, is it just kind of harkened back. It reminded me of him saying that, and I think it's true. Like the tools are getting easier. It's allowing ideas that are inside us to come out, more fluidly.
Yeah.
Another project that is on your timeline that I really loved, and this is one of the first ones that really kind of spoke to me. The other ones were visual, but this one kind of got me from a story perspective, is the one called Flowers. So again, the visuals are beautiful, and of course that's what we're used to seeing with some of these types of machine learning driven imagery that's being created. But this was one of the first ones that grabbed me, and I could feel the story. I could feel the story coming through. Anybody who has loved and lost can kind of feel it. So that's beautiful. How did that? Talk to me about your process here in terms of how intentional were you, scene by scene, or did some of the inspiration just kind of hit you as you were going for the story element of it? Just talk me through this.
Usually it just hits me when I see one of the images that I generate. Like, I usually go from there. Like, I generate pretty open-minded, and then whenever I see one image that instantly gets me like a story in my head, I have to work on it. Like, usually it's one image that immediately tells the story in my head, and then I go around that to make it complete. And I try to generate as good of stuff already that I have in mind, but there's a lot of going back and forth. Like, I go from Midjourney to Luma, then back to Midjourney, and then I go into Splice. Splice is where I edit everything on my phone. And from there, like, right now I only use the music within that app. And sometimes now I get into more Suno, like the AI music generator. That's pretty cool, actually. Like, I've gotten the hang of it to work with that from my phone too. But yeah, like, the music kind of makes the story complete. And that's really where I go, again, then back and forth. And I take it all to Splice, coming from Luma, and then I say, like, okay, here's like one piece is missing, and then I go back to Midjourney, and yeah, that's kind of the process. There's a lot of back and forth, and it's tedious for just being on my X timeline, right? Like, there's no need for it to be told, but yeah, I just love the process of it and how I can just pretty quickly. I mean, these usually take me a day-ish to complete, to just get that story out there, like starting from one simple image going to a whole little short story.
Yeah. Well, you just brought up an interesting point to segue. You said, it's a bit of tedious work for it to only be living on your X timeline. That the thing is, they really are beautiful. So congratulations on that. And it's definitely attracting attention to you and as an artist. And I've seen your channel grown. I've seen you become more well known, even in the little time we've known each other. So we hired you to do an experimental, little short film a time back. It's almost, I think, last fall. So it's almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with what you turned out. So that was one of my questions is, what are you doing for work? And is this playing into how you make money? How are you making money as an artist now? Because I see you work with these tools fairly regularly. So talk to us about what you're up to financially.
Well, I'm a graphic designer, and pretty much due to AI transforming more into the artist side, like I like in the beginning I was very, like, I didn't call myself an artist. Now I kind of do, because it really is storytelling, and it doesn't really matter what tools I use, because I was very like, okay, well, AI tools, I don't know how much me is actually in there. Like, it was really hard for me to be like, okay, well, this is my art. Like, that was very, from the beginning on, like, very hard for me to say. And now I feel like it's more the story than the actual visuals or the tools that I use that are, yeah, like telling what I am. But yeah, it's really increasing. The AI and film part is increasing into how I am financially built up right now. I work with bigger brands, with smaller brands, and thankfully graphic design has been a super great asset to have, because I do a ton of Photoshop work from like the mid-journey images. There's still a lot of artifacts in there. There's so many mistakes in there that maybe you don't see at first glance, but you can see it at second and third, and then you're like, what the hell, what is this? This just feels wrong. And to go in there and edit those images, and then later on, maybe if it comes to that, the movies and the films is a super asset to have. But yeah, I mean, I'm still also a graphic designer. I do marketing designs and everything. But yeah, like the AI films is what really makes my heart beat a little bit faster. Like it's
cool.
super exciting. And
Yeah.
I never, like in the past years, had that outlet to tell my stories. Like I always was very into photography when I was a teenager. But then at some point I was like, okay, well, I gotta make money. Like I gotta stay focused on one thing, and the thing that probably makes the most money, which was at that point graphic design. And yeah, it's really hard to take time out of your day to go out and shoot some stuff or take photos. It's sad. Like it's sad to say that, but now I feel very lucky to be able to tell those stories again with the tools that are available.
Yeah, the artistry is real. So for sure you are an artist and it's coming through. Do you find that clients are reaching out to you more often for AI film related work, paid work?
Yeah, nowadays, yeah.
That's
like
good.
and even on my portfolio, like I haven't updated it in a hot minute. Like there's not even that much or none at all, I think, on there. So it's mainly through the reach of X and Instagram that I am able to work on such projects, which is pretty cool. And also it is always reminding me how important it is to, yeah, use your socials and use them with intention. Like it wasn't my goal to do projects with clients like that, but it brings me so much joy that I absolutely love it. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, if you think about it, the tools we have available to us for distribution, right? You're talking about marketing, right? You're marketing your personal brand. And it's what we're doing right now on this podcast is like, we're both sort of showing the world our thoughts and our process. And, and it is incredible. I try to remind my kids of that because they're growing up in a time, it's just normal to them, right?
That's true, yeah.
But it wasn't always that way. And so to anybody that's feeling down or complaining about growing a business or how hard it is or whatever, it's actually the easiest time in history to do it.
It really is. Like I couldn't imagine having to do this like even 15 years ago.
Right.
Like you went to a job interview with your little printed out portfolio. Like there was no sending over a PDF or having a portfolio that good online. Like it was really hard to market yourself.
Agreed.
And to really show your value, right? Like that's another kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah. And now we have a lot of, that people can scroll and look and look and look and then they feel it, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your background.
So much more personality in there, right? Like that's also the other part. I feel like your personality doesn't come through in an interview or if you meet someone
That's
for
right.
like just 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and even more so through films, right? I watch some of these short films and I'm like, wow, she put that together in that order. She's feeling this, or
Yeah.
maybe she was thinking this, or whatever, right? So yes, good point. I'm curious about your background. So tell us a little bit about your where where you grew up and sort of your process, or your influences, I should say, and how it's sort of taken you to where you're at today.
Yeah, I'm from Luxembourg, teeny tiny country. I've always been very artsy, like arts and crafts. I used to do that a ton with my mom. And then in my teenage years, I really got into photography, and I went to an art school in Luxembourg. And there again, there was a lot of like finding your voice in art styles. And that was pretty cool to have that really early on. And as I said, like I really loved photography, but ultimately I didn't choose it to be my job, because I was like, I love it so much, I don't want to hate it at some point, because lots of grown-ups, they were hating their jobs, and I was like, I don't want to hate what I love doing right now. So for me that was always kind of like, okay, I will choose something that I still love doing, but I don't love that much that I would hate it at some point. Luckily, I also don't hate graphic design right now. But it was always kind of in the back of my head. And yeah, I kind of lost photography for myself for a hot second, having to work a job. And it still was always kind of there, but didn't live it out. And then, I started to be a freelancer in 2020. And that was a crazy time, because it was just like the whole world was kind of upside down, and I was just kind of like, well, let's go freelance, I guess. So that was a bit, a crazy move to do, but ultimately it was the best thing I could chose at that point. And I think, when was it with DALL-E 2? I think that was in August 22. Yeah, oh my God, time's flying. But also not really. It isn't even that long, but...
That's the shocking part. It's like we're measuring time differently now.
Yeah.
We're measuring time in like AI improvement. Weeks are what was traditionally years, of technological advancement, and it's changing
crazy.
our perception of time.
Yeah, and I mean, even thinking back to DALL-E 2, it was so funny, because when thinking back, I knew how much it blew my mind, how realistic it could look, like just generating from words. And now when I look at the stuff I did, I'm like, I mean, cute, but this is not good. But yeah.
It's like when you look back to your first Instagram posts and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, look at the filter on the image, right? Like,
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I think I'm losing myself here. I think I lost myself for the question.
oh no, I was curious of your background, and you're just kind of giving me the timeline. So you're not in Luxembourg anymore. Have you moved around?
No. I moved to Berlin to study communication design, and stayed there for quite a bit. Then moved to Canada, moved back to Berlin, and now I'm in the south of Germany. But yeah, that's also kind of
awesome.
crazy. Like Berlin was a huge inspiration art-wise for me. Like I really wanted to choose Berlin at that time, because it was so artsy and everybody was living it so freely. And in Luxembourg, it always kind of felt like art is not as big. It wasn't as appreciated. And then going to Berlin just for a visit once, I was just like blown away by everything there. Like the street art, the people, like everything was way more open to all of that. And that was pretty cool to see, and also to be able to live it. And yeah, now we're here.
I I've spoken to a lot of artists, especially in the last year, maybe year and a half, and there's a kind of a reoccurring theme that I hear often where there's been an element of insecurity in their voice when they talk about AI and AI tools, because, you know, like you said at the outset, there's this, well, how much of me is really in that? And how much is that really art? It's just tech, right? But in the end, it is. I'm sure the same thing happened with painters watching people make art with Photoshop when that, you know, and I remember jumping into Photoshop when it was like Photoshop 4, when layers first were, you know, so I've seen this same thing. So, but it feels like with you, you leaned in early and it was, and I think I'm picking up from you that it was mostly, you know, for fun and for creation's sake and for pushing yourself and just enjoyment, even to the point where you're enjoying it on your phone.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sort of your philosophy that way and how it's changed, the way that you see AI tools, and, you know, how did you see it in the beginning and how has it changed over time?
In the beginning, it really was just like a toy to play around. Like, I think everybody's first prompt was like a dog as an astronaut, like a dog in space, because it was just like, oh, I want to see something that isn't possible. and now, I don't know, for me at that point, like especially in DALL-E 2, I was like, well, how far can I push it actually to realism? Like, what if I don't imagine a dog in space, but actually be like having a grandpa staying in his kitchen, like telling that really sad story? Like, it's stupid, but I just wanted to see that, and it worked. Like, that melancholic, very sad feeling was in that image, and I was like, okay, well, this is pretty cool. Like, how far can I really push that cinematic feel and aesthetic with those tools? And along came Midjourney, and yeah, then at some point being able to make those generated images move absolutely nuts. Like, that was something I didn't imagine ever happen, and I'm so happy I really stayed with the tools even when they were at their shittiest. And I mean, today they are at their worst. They're only getting better every day.
Right.
And that's the crazy part, right? Like, and at some point I saw so much potential in those tools that I was like, I can't give it up, no matter how much hate I'm getting for it, because there was a lot of negative aspects around it. And to still push through was, I don't know, I kind of was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, people hated on amazing artists that at one point started using Procreate on an iPad, and they were like, well, this is not painting, you're just like using brushes that are digital. And I'm like, but still, like, you still have to have that in your mind and be able to follow through with it and draw that picture. Like, it doesn't matter what tool you use, what app you use, it just doesn't matter. And
sorry, I'm not crushing the stone to make the purple and paint it on the cave wall.
Exactly. Like, it's so irrational to say that. And of course, I admire just as much photographers still now. Like, it doesn't matter. And even so, like, all that knowledge real photographers have is becoming more and more valuable.
Right.
And just like how I, as a teenager, I thought it was so cool to have vinyl music. Like, I was like, or shooting with film. Because I was like, I don't want to be like this. Like, I don't want to shoot digital. And it's going to be the same thing, and over and over and over again. Like, that's just, history repeats itself every time there.
So I'm a filmmaker, and I have a lot of filmmaker friends, and so like this, the conversations around AI tools for film, you know, we talk about it fairly often, and you know, currently, and it's like, yeah, the tools are there to create a very impressive, dreamlike montage or something very aesthetic, and there seems to be still quite a ways to go to be able to control a character, give it
Yeah.
dialogue, give it movement,
Yeah.
maintain art direction the whole time. What do you see? I mean, but it will happen, right?
It will happen.
It's all moving at a pace where it's become obvious that this
Yeah.
is coming. What are some of the and maybe this is for the product designers out there, but when you're kind of on the bleeding edge of using these tools, what are some of the pain points you feel when you're creating, where you're like, God, I wish I had this.
Yeah.
Anything come
It's
to mind?
still, yeah, like it's still oftentimes character consistency. Like it's gotten pretty good. And also having your own models and working from there is helpful. But it's still pretty tedious. Like, let's not gonna lie, like it takes a while. People
Yeah.
always think, oh, it's just like, it took you 3 seconds to do this. Not really. It still
Right.
takes a lot of effort and time out of your day. And if you think about really doing an hour and a half of a movie with those tools, it's possible, but you have to be very open-minded with your script. Like,
Right.
it's not like, oh, I want to show this in this kind of direction. You're still gonna have to be like a lot of, yeah, you have to be like very open-minded as to what you're showing. And that's kind of still the biggest pain point, I would say. Like you don't have you can't make your strict plan out of, like if you have something really strict in mind, it won't work. That's just what I also tell my clients all the time. Like, you have to be open-minded with it, because it usually doesn't work the way I want it to.
Yeah.
And I just make the best out of it. And then if I do my little short films, there's a ton of morphing in the films that I have to cut out, or have like, okay, well, I have to stretch that little piece of film to really be possible to have with the music that I intended to use. Like, that's the biggest pain point, I feel like. And going over like a good 10 seconds is still pretty hard.
Duration,
And 10 seconds
length
isn't,
of it.
yeah.
So, okay, prediction time. How long do you think it's going to take before we have the tools where we could very easily like lock characters, start to give them dialogue, start to have longer durations, start to maybe introduce text to movement, blocking or camera movements or changes.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are we talking months? Or are we talking years here, in your opinion?
I would say years, but knowing how fast everything's moving, I'm saying months. I could see somebody already be working on it. Like, probably Runway's already having all of that set up in the back end, but it's still not quite there yet. I'm also like, having seen Sora, it could also be possible that they are doing the setting fine-tuning. But then again, like with Sora, I think they were very cherry picking their videos that they showed us.
I think so.
And have it, I mean, it's still not launched, and I feel like most people have already forgotten about it again. It was very promising. So I don't know, probably months.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I had the same reaction to Sora. I was like, oh my gosh, we're there. This is going to happen. But then it's been so long, and I'm like, where is it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and now they're kind of like already outdated, I feel.
Yeah.
With Luma and Runway, they have completely kind of killed Sora. I don't know if I would be still as impressed from Sora having already crazy tools out there right now.
Maybe that's the reason for the delay, right? They're like, okay, we don't have competitive features. We got to add competitive features and get it out in time now. Probably that's the deal. I'd love to see
the consistency, but
I'd love to see like something. I don't care if it's even just like for kids shows, something that where you could make a story front to back at 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 something, where the art style is very approachable and more
Yeah.
simple, a simple palette, but it still had character control, it still had angle, like you introduce dialogue,
Yeah.
you say it moves, this character walks across the screen and turns, and
Yeah.
like, but as long as I could pump out a 25-minute kids episode, that would still be impressive, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're actually really making a series with these tools, and then build it from there. But I'm surprised that no one has launched something that could allow animators full story control, soup to nuts,
Yeah.
using machine learning. You have all the tools. They're all very rudimentary, but they would be fine for children's content, something like that.
It feels like it should be possible though, right? Like with all the tools available,
Yes.
it could. Somebody has to be already working on it. Like, I can't imagine not being
I'm sure.
surprised with that in just a few short months. And then you have like you say, like for a kids show, having 3 characters and with a certain voice, with a certain look, in a certain environment, like that should totally be doable.
Yeah, and just like really, have a rock solid character lock, right? To make sure that it's not, you're not hallucinating some weird character changes or whatever.
Yeah.
But whoever's listening to this out there, I would use it. I would use it right now. You've recently become a mother. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's pretty awesome. So how is that changing your life? I know the answer. It's changing it a lot. But how are you balancing work and family, and how is it sort of shifting your perspective?
Well, I'm working from my phone, right? But still, like this is something that has impressed me a lot, because look how much I can do just from my phone.
Right.
Like I used to be glued to my desk and work from here. Like sitting at my desk it literally was 12 hours a day. And now just like during nursing, I can cut up like a whole little movie together, generate my little images, blow them up in Magnific and put them through Luma to Splice and getting it to Twitter.
Oh my gosh.
It's definitely like I try to be very optimistic and kind of naive about becoming a mother and still be working. And luckily with AI, it has gotten easier. But it is pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's now, we're on week 8. It is still challenging, but doable. But yeah, it's crazy. I try to have a bit more of a positive lookout on stuff. Like I don't want to still just be working on my melancholic little videos. But then again, like that's very me, and I really love to grab that feeling in my in my stories. So we'll see. Maybe it will change. Maybe it won't. I think that's very much a thing that will
always
stay
be
with
you.
me. Yeah.
It will always be you. But yes, we do change. We change.
Yeah.
Parenting has changed me maybe the most in my life. But
Yeah.
but it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's worth it. So congratulations on that. And you're
Thank you so
very
much.
much in the beginning of it. So I want to encourage you to know that you right now you're in the thick of it and it's difficult, but it will evolve. It will pass. It will it will change. So don't worry. It will get better. And I'm impressed.
I'm
I'm
so
impressed
far,
that-
like I really can't complain. Like he is absolutely wonderful and a very easy baby. But I also don't want to say it too loud, because otherwise he'll get ideas of becoming a more difficult baby. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had, my wife and I have a bunch of kids, and ours was he was pretty great. And he still is pretty great. But first baby, it's kind of like thank God is as easy as he was, because it's like it eases us into the mode of parenting. But
Yeah.
I'm just so impressed that you're actually making art during this time, even on your phone. Although the phone still is tripping me out. Just the user interface, like just the slow
Yeah.
user interface part of that, I think I would. I don't have hair to pull out, but I'd pull my beard out probably. Frustration.
But I
But I'm
mean, I
impressed.
gotta be completely honest, like I didn't think it would work as well as it does. And it's pretty mind blowing because I was very aware of not being able to work on stuff for probably a longer time or not be sitting at my computer all the time. And I was kind of feeling MIA, like especially since AI is evolving so quickly and I don't want to miss out on anything or I don't know, it's just so hard to not be, yeah, like on the top of the news in AI. So yeah, I'm really happy that it works as well as it does, and I still find some time during the day to work on it, and
Yeah. I
still
mean,
have my mind travel to places if times are a bit harder and I'm tired and it's challenging. But yeah,
yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
cool
Well,
outlet to have.
this podcast is called Meaningful Stories, and the story that you're writing right now is very meaningful, and no story is meaningful unless it has challenges, right? So
It's true.
there's a lot of nuance to this whole working on your phone while where you can, when you can. That's a topic that I sense is deeper than we're even making it right now. So it's like these tools weren't traditionally meant for the phone, but the phone has become so ubiquitous and like always on us, and
Yeah.
it's such a wide market that could be working from anywhere on anything with it. It makes sense that it would get better and better, that processing would get to the point, and most of the processing is in the cloud anyway. So I shouldn't be surprised that the phone is becoming more primary in this regard. It's pretty cool. It's really interesting. Um, so what would you say right now, like seeing your career shift and you're getting more work in the AI film kind of space? Where does your mind go in terms of the future? What do you dabble with? Do you think about becoming, going all the way to where you're directing feature films and series, or do you see yourself as an art director for such, or like what do you think about when you think about advancement over time?
I could definitely see that happening. Like that's something two and a half years ago was never on my goals list. Like I never thought I would get into film stuff at all. Like I was never meant to go into that direction, but it somehow happened. And that's something I tell people all the time, like don't sleep on those new tools because they will evolve and at some point they will be inevitable to use. Like graphic designers back in the days didn't use Photoshop, like they draw their logos on paper and however they did it. But times change. If you go to a client and have it a logo on just on paper, they will be like, what the hell? I need it as a vector, but thanks you. Thanks, I guess. Everything will change and it's changing quicker than ever. So I always tell people that like so many other graphic designers are being like, oh, I've never heard of Midjourney. And I'm always like, oh God, I feel for
Get
your
ready.
future.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to predict the future, but I really do see AI growing and becoming like a very fixed thing in the tools
Right.
that we use nowadays, like
Right.
Adobe, like AI is in there already, and you can just be hating it, but still it's going to be inevitable to come around it at some point. So I
That's
don't know
right.
where I really do see myself being in a year, 2 or 5. Like that has always been the hardest question people have asked me, like in interviews, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's so hard. I don't even know what tomorrow has to offer, and we'll see. But I could see myself really working on a movie at some point, just to try it out. And maybe from there, it will evolve into something more, more stable, something fixed, and not just being a graphic designer and artist.
You have the right perspective, and that is, I don't know what tomorrow brings. I work with what I have here today, and tomorrow's a new day, right?
Yeah.
I think philosophically that's wise. I think way too many people are worried about tomorrow, and like it's not worth it. It's not worth it to do that. It's like, let's do the best we possibly can with what we have and keep experimenting and take each day as it comes. I wrote a book a couple years ago, and the analogy I put in it was like the ocean. The ocean has these waves that are coming in all the time, and they're very powerful. They're incredible. They could crash you, or you could surf them, right? It's like, how do you work with it? And you're doing a really good job of that. Like we're in this podcast right now because you're doing a great job and putting stuff out there. So I wish you the best with that. I think your art is awesome. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And I do think that you will go on to make movies and shows and to teach other filmmakers like some of your process. And I think we're all gonna see your name on really big things as time goes on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that would be beautiful. If it happens, I would absolutely love it. If it won't happen, I tried. and for me, like, the joy factor really plays in. Like, I get so much joy out of working on those things that it kind of matters where I end up with it. But on the other hand, as long as I really enjoy doing what I'm doing, it is never time wasted. So yeah,
that's great. As a final shout out, who do you learn from? Who do you want to shout out there that you're like? I like to do this, kind of pass it on. As artists, we're always kind of borrowing from each other and learning from each other. Does anybody come to mind that you want to shout out?
I definitely think Dave Clark on X. Like, his short films and like, they are crazy and they are so inspiring and amazing, and the tools he's using are traditional and AI, and it always blows my mind how well he does his things. And I mean, meanwhile I'm here just like being on my little phone, and he actually does the real work with it, and it really shows, and he's amazing.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having this conversation. You're the best.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thank you so much.